This is Sunken Square. It's a public area at the base, at the bottom of the multi-complex building at Incheon Global Campus. So there's the multi-complex building where a lot of the offices and some classrooms of 3 of the universities that are here are located. And then this space called Sunken Square is at the bottom. Right around the edge you see some empty spaces. Those are going to be supposedly for shops, cafes, maybe some student center type offices, counseling center, things like that. And then the rest of the space is really dedicated to meeting areas. It's called Sunken Square even though it's a circle, but there are squares here. And square, I think, means it's, at least as I'm familiar with it, when you're calling something a square, that refers to, even if it's a square or not, that refers to a public space people share for, you know, like meetings, but also less formal stuff, like entertainment. So there are several things that I wanted to point out. The seating areas, there are these benches, they're steel benches. And there are other seating areas as well, like these low concrete ones that are about maybe half a meter high, so people can sit on those. And then there are some traditional table and chairs set up. They're kind of disorganized right now, but there are some umbrellas as well to keep the rain or the sun off of people. So you can sit here in different configurations. You can even sit on the stairs, I guess. There's also a lot of vegetation. There are trees, there are flowers, there are shrubs. So as I'm looking at this space, there are a couple of things that come to my mind that are relevant to what we've talked about regarding architecture. The first is the idea that there are aesthetic considerations that are planned in. This space didn't really have to exist. Like, it doesn't really serve a structural purpose for the multi-complex building. But it's here because the people who designed it wanted to design apparently wanted to design a nice space for people to gather. And another indication of that is the flowers and the trees. Those didn't have to be here either, but they're here to blend, I think, a lot of the really hard edges, a lot of the squares, a lot of the flat seating surfaces with more, you know, with softer shapes and nice colors. So especially this time of the year, it's just the flowers are intended to be beautiful. So it's intended to be a space that is that combines a lot of the building elements with nature. And it's also below the main level where people are usually walking back and forth among the buildings. That's why it's sunken. So people, if they're meeting down here, are out of the high traffic areas, and they're away from that construction up there as well that you can see. Another consideration has to do, excuse me, well, as I said before, designing a public space. I talked a lot, as I was just summarizing what this space looks like, about how it is a space that's intended for people to gather. Several of the architecture projects that we looked at weren't examples of building houses or building office buildings, but they were, even after natural disasters, they were examples of projects that were that went up, that were intended to get people to just spend time with one another. For example, the art center that was built in Kansas after that tornado, that was a public meeting space. The places that the Pakistani architect designed, those were public meeting spaces by and large. And this is another example. So obviously, public meeting spaces are really, really important.